as we welcome to the stage Dame Stephanie Shirley. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. I mean, after such an introduction, I can hardly wait to hear what I'm going to say. Let me take you back to the 1960s, though we're not supposed to really remember the 60s. To get past the gender issues of that time, I set up my own high-tech software company, one of the first of the UK's such startups. And it was a company of women, a company for women, basically an early social business. And people laughed at the very idea. You can't sell software, they said, because at that time it was given away free with the hardware. And they laughed even more at my crusade for women. Although women were then coming out of the universities with decent science degrees, there was a glass ceiling to our progress, and I had hit that ceiling too often. So I wanted opportunities for women. I recruited professionally qualified women who had left the computer industry on marriage or when their first child was expected, and structured them into a home-based cottage industry, a cottage industry of the 20th century. And we pioneered the concept of women going back into the workforce after a career gap, and euphemism for having children generally. We pioneered a whole lot of new work methods, all kinds of flexible working, job shares, then profit sharing, and eventually co-ownership, because with a lot of problems, I did manage to get a quarter of the company into the hands of the staff at no cost to anyone but me. Every survey of what women want comes up with two things: work-life balance and flexibility. We even paid people from a cafeteria of benefits. They decided how they wanted to be paid, whether it would be fixed salaries or indirect pay, such as holidays, pensions, company car, and so on. And I never achieved work-life balance. It's been all work, which is not healthy. And I've watched female colleagues struggle with some of these issues. Always advise them, especially mothers who, even in today's society, still are often the prime carer of the family children, to get help, be it domestic help, childcare, and reduce the working hours. It's not popular with employers. And for years, I was the first woman this, the only woman that. In those days, women couldn't work on the stock exchange. We were not allowed to drive a bus or fly an aeroplane. I couldn't even open my company's bank account without getting my husband's permission. And my generation of women basically fought the battles for the right to work and the right for equal pay. In my first job, when handsome young men used to offer to carry my equipment for me, I used to reply very aggressively, "I believe in equal pay and will carry my own things." Nowadays, of course, I say, "Oh, how kind. Thank you." No one expected much from women at work or in society, because all the expectations then were about home and family responsibilities. I couldn't accept that and started to challenge the conventions of the time, even to the extent of changing my name from Stephanie to the family nickname of Steve in my business development letters. so as to get through the door and be shaking hands before anyone realized that he was a she. My interests were scientific. I'm a mathematician by discipline. The market, though, was commercial. Things such as payroll, which, apart from the size of some of the files, I found boring. So I hit a compromise with operational research, which was intellectually challenging and at the same time commercially valued and valuable. Things like scheduling freight trains for British Rail, timetabling buses. Scientific stock control was just coming in at that time, so we did lots and lots of stock control. Gradually, the work came in, and it was slow. And we disguised the domestic and basically part-time nature of the workforce by offering fixed prices, one of the first to do so for software. Who would have guessed that the programming of the black box flight recorder for supersonic Concorde would be done by a bunch of women working in our own homes? Our programmers, remember, only women, including gay and transgender. They worked with pencil and paper, writing flow charts, basically defining the task to be done. And they then wrote code. It was usually in machine code, but sometimes it was in binary. And that was then sent to a data center, where it was punched onto card or paper tape, and then repunched in order to at least to verify that process. And that was all before it ever got anywhere near a mainframe computer. Let me share with you 2 secrets of business success. Always surround yourself with people who work smarter than you do. And my colleagues will confirm I did that. And choose your partner, any partner, very carefully. The other day when I said, my husband's an angel, a woman complained. "You're lucky," she said. "Mine's still alive." In 1975, 13 years from the company's startup, equal opportunities legislation came in Britain, which made our pro-female policy illegal. So as an example of unintended consequences, my woman's company had to let the men in if they were good enough. There are all sorts of things that men do differently. We work much better in teams. We look longer term, think more internationally. We're not worried about me. Our leadership style is different. Our body language and the way we talk is different. We speak indirectly. Worldwide, women speak indirectly, by which I mean that we'll say something like, "Is it getting a bit chilly in here?" when what a man would say is, "Shut that window." But you can always tell ambitious women by the shape of our heads. They're flat on top from being patted patronizingly. In this century, women have to really master technology. But equally important to our empowerment has been birth control. For women's careers are still often linked with our childbearing and child rearing. So let me talk for a couple of minutes on my family background. Our late son, Giles, was a beautiful, contented baby. I know every mother says that. But and then at 2.5, like a changeling in a fairy story, he lost the little speech that he had and turned into a wild, unmanageable toddler. Not the terrible twos. He was profoundly autistic, and he never spoke again. And Giles was the first resident in the first home of the first charity that I set up. I founded it as a pioneer of services to autism. And then there was a groundbreaking Priors Court school for pupils with autism. Then finally I set up an autism research charity. And together these organizations employ more than 1,000 people and in 2 teaching robots. I'm still an early user of technology. My giving is not different because I'm a woman, though I do care about things and I'm careful about them. I like doing new things and making new things happen. And so that some of my wealth does go back to the tech industry from which it stems. I've also co-founded the IT livery company in the City of London, number 100 in the pecking order, which is nicely sounding binary, and the Oxford Internet Institute, which researches not the technology, but the social, economic, legal, and ethical issues of this network of networks. OII, and again, it's nicely sounding binary. So I have given away some 67 million, as Judy said, which is serious money, wonderfully effective. And philanthropy is what I do now. I need never worry about getting lost in the city because several charities would quickly come and find me. It's one thing to have an idea for an enterprise, but to then make it happen requires extraordinary energy, self-belief, and perseverance. The courage to risk family and home, and a 24/7 commitment that borders on the obsessive. So it's just as well that I am a workaholic. I believe in the beauty of work when we do it properly and in humility. And work is not just something I do when I'd rather be doing something else. And we enjoy the things that we're good at, and we're good at the things that we enjoy. Apart from the time commitment, I've also worked at trying to go beyond myself, to see the broader picture. And that means more than having a personal goal like I want to be rich. It means having goals for your community, your profession, and your country. I found that to be able to go beyond myself, I needed a healthy selfishness to invest in myself, mind, body, and spirit, in order to ensure my own self-preservation and development. I continue to advocate for women, there are a lot of us about, and encourage girls to study STEM subjects. Although nowadays girls are getting the best marks in school and dominate many of the universities, there's still a need for role models to encourage women and girls in critical thinking. We all have to become creators, not just consumers. Girls need to understand the obstacles that lie in front of them and know that they are surmountable. Surmountable for themselves and for those who follow. For instance, you've been talking this morning about artificial intelligence. It's very important to place both women and men at the heart of AI. You will know as well as I do how you have to dredge up the reserves sometimes to meet a deadline. You have to do it from the depths of sometimes when it's an off day and there's something that your team has worked for months to put together. Or when your group has suffered a major setback. And what happens all the time? You just seem to be getting to over the worst when another challenge comes out to hit you again. It's like climbing triumphantly to the top of a hill, then to discover that it isn't actually the summit and that there's another higher hill still in front of you. I'm a scientist, and the scientific method is quite simple, that if it works, you do more of it. If it doesn't work, you try something else. So I've stopped trying to bash my way through things. And I've learnt to find other routes round the obstacles. Go round, go over, go under, go elsewhere. So how do you move your career forward? Find something that you're really interested in. Choose the one that you're a little bit scared of. Get trained, and then just go for it. Enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Thank you. You're very kind. I wonder if I could... Indeed, and that's always a sign of a magical speaker when actually you can't cross the applause. So thank you very much, everybody. I wonder if I can ask you a question, may I? Which is, as you look at the world of technology today, and particularly the world of cyber, and looking at the innovation that's coming out in cyber, I would love to hear your observations on what inspires you and perhaps what worries you. Start the worrying first, and we'll end up on high.
I think a lot of things worry me. Because we have lost some of the integrity that I based my childhood training and my life is based on. I think the worry, it's ambivalent. I worry because things have never moved so fast as they are doing today. And yet at the same time, you have to remember that they will never be as slow again. So we're really there with responsibility and fun and joy because things are moving so fast. So as I say, enjoy, find something that you really like. Wonderful. Please give one more huge round of applause to Dame Stephanie Shirley. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Truly inspiring.